Hey, Chiefs Kingdom, welcome back to our second live stream of the day. We are towards the end of the first round. It looks like Seattle, the pick is in for the Seattle Seahawks at number 27, just down the corner from the Chiefs pick at number 32. A lot of good players still left on the board. A lot of exciting stuff left for the rest of this night. But we welcome on voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, to wrap us up tonight. Mitch, how are you feeling about the first round so far?
Chalk. It was all chalk. I mean, there wasn't any surprises really going all the way down the board until the Chargers, give them credit, get Kenneth Murray. Other than that, no real big earth-shattering moves.
Yeah, Matt and I talked about it on the show earlier, that the intrigue for me really started with the 3, 4, 5. Where did Tua go? Where is Tua going to end up? Was he going to end up in the AFC West? And luckily, at least in my opinion, he didn't. He goes to the Dolphins at 5, and then the Chargers take Justin Herbert at Oregon with 6. And we'll break those picks down here in a little bit. But a lot of good stuff left as we continue to count down until the Chiefs pick. With Brett Veach, you never know. So out of the corner of my eye, always making sure we don't trade up or anything like that. But Mitch, we talked about this initiative earlier on the show, the KC Hearts initiative that Kansas City and the whole community was getting into, which is, trying to get people to go out and tailgate and trying to get them to spend time because, it's the first sports related thing we've all had in a while. And we talked about it earlier. We all deserve this with everything that we've been doing and kind of sheltering in place and all that kind of stuff, that getting out there and kind of having some fun with the family before the draft. We've seen the pictures and we're going to show a couple of those right now. We saw a couple earlier with Andy Reid and Tammy Reid, but right now we've got Jane Martin and Amanda Carlo, two of our favorite Kansas City Chiefs employees and their families, spreading some love with the KC Hearts, and then the family of Kristen Pugh, who works with us on the Chiefs digital department in charge of game day entertainment. So obviously love to see that and to see everybody supporting one another. But Mitch, earlier on the show, I know that Matt and I were kind of breaking things down and getting excited for this. You were busy talking with Brett Veach, Andy Reid and company regarding just kind of the offseason and how things stand right now. What stood out to you during your guys' conversation?
Well, what set up the scene for tonight and where the Chiefs still sitting at 32 was the fact that this team came back almost intact from winning a Super Bowl. That's unheard of in the National Football League. And not just the team, but the staff is back. Now, when asked in our earlier meeting tonight for Andy Reid, he talked about the work that was done and the village that exists, the infrastructure for the Chiefs that makes this all work.
It helps in any environment, but in particular in this one. Brett busted his tail along with Brant Tillis and Chris Shea of working this thing together. Brett set up a plan and passed it through Clark to make sure he was okay with it, and then they got to work and they put this thing together and were able to bring players back and to redo contracts in whatever manner that they did, and where it still worked out well for the player, but it also worked out well for the Chiefs, and we can work in this crazy salary cap. So my hat goes off to those guys and the effort that they put into this thing.
Yeah, you heard names there. Again, managing the cap, getting guys to come back. People want to be here. It just has to work. And Andy Reid just lays it out there how the infrastructure that's so strong that makes this team right now the Chiefs, the number one rated team in the league.
And speaking of just defenses, we're giving updates. We're heads on a swivel right now. Everybody following along who's watching the draft as well. That Jordan Brooks, the Texas Tech speedy linebacker, just goes right there to, I believe, the Seattle Seahawks at 27. If you would have told me before the draft that Jordan Brooks is going to get drafted before Patrick Queen, Mitch, I would not have believed you.
Yeah, but John Schneider, former Chiefs front office executive, longtime and successful GM of the Seahawks, always plays the surprise, does his homework. It's the first time, I think, since 15 he hasn't traded out of the first round. It tells me, though, that there's maybe not all these trade partners that we would think, although the Chiefs at 32 still could trade down, but Schneider makes a surprise move there. Good
Mitch,
player.
you can give John Schneider all the credit you want. I spent at least an hour watching highlights of Patrick Queen on YouTube, so I'm obviously an expert and a huge fan of Patrick Queen. But anyway, let's go through the AFC West and break down what we saw from our division. And really early in this, we saw a we got to contend with Patrick Mahomes type of feel to what we saw from the division. Like we mentioned earlier, the Chargers, I believe, missed out on Tua that he goes the pick before to the Miami Dolphins. They end up with Justin Herbert, the quarterback out of Oregon, 6'6", 236 pounds, completed 67% of his passes in his career with 95 touchdowns, 23 interceptions, known as a fantastic athlete. The one knock on him when you're looking through some of these scouting reports was decision-making under pressure. Something when bodies and chaos kind of got around him, despite his great athlete at 6'6". That's something he's going to jump out on the highlights. And a big-time arm, but just when the play broke down, there wasn't a lot of playmaking out of pocket or out of rhythm, I guess you'd say. Something we see a lot from Patrick Mahomes. Herbert, just a different kind of player in that way, Mitch.
Yeah, and when people saw my tweet earlier in the day, I was saying, 24 years spent chasing Elway and Manning and also Brady. Now the teams are chasing us. I don't say that to be arrogant. It's just fact. And this is one of those examples. I mean, the Chargers are looking for their guy. Herbert is still a project. I think that they're going to follow the Chiefs' blueprint, too, with Tyrod Taylor there to try to mentor him for a year. The one thing he can do, you saw the Tannehill comparisons, he can take off and run. He just struggles, to your point, to take off to throw. And that would be the next thing for him to master.
Yeah, his intermediate, we look at Pro Football Focus, his intermediate accuracy on some of the shorter passes, some of the easier ones, you would think those swing passes, a lot of the ones that take the touch are the ones that, according to them, again, he had struggled with. But the other move, and you mentioned it earlier, that the Chargers did, they trade up to number 23 to take the Oklahoma linebacker, Kenneth Murray, a guy that, if you've been following any of the draft talk, any of the content that we've done leading up to this draft, Kenneth Murray was one of those guys that we talked about. A versatile linebacker, great story, a great dude with his family story, great blitzer, a guy who's going to kind of roam the middle of the field, known for attacking screens. That's got to be a thing that the Chargers saw that they liked about him, was his ability to diagnose screens when you're in a division with Andy Reid. Yeah,
you can say he almost has like a honey badger mentality, Anthony Hitchens' football IQ. If you want to question them taking Herbert or in the early picks, you cannot question this move. This is a very solid move by the Chargers because Murray, to me, could be a guy that's a Pro Bowler for many years.
Yeah, the only good news I think I could take from it is they gave up a second and a third round pick in order to move up as much as they did. And this is a deep draft. So they missed out on an opportunity to get two good players, to get one really, really good player based on what we saw from college. 335 career tackles, 37 career tackles for loss. That's a guy who lived on the other side of the line of scrimmage. Mitch, now let's go to the Raiders, who maybe a little bit surprising. You knew that the three receivers, Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, were probably going to be the first three receivers taken. You just weren't sure what order it was going to be. And then it ends up being Henry Ruggs, the kind of the Tyreek Hill type of pick. I saw your tweet about, they're tired of seeing Tyreek Hill run around the division. But this is a guy that's going to create space for Darren Waller, their tight end. He's going to create space for Josh Jacobs, and just an absolute burner as the Raiders take Henry Ruggs with the number 12 pick.
Yeah, 4.27, arguably fastest guy at the combine. But I think what Gruden is tired of is seeing, and to me, he looks like a McCole Hardman clone. And I think what Gruden is tired of is seeing Andy Reid being able to use Tyreek and McCole as a slot, an X, a Z, an R. I mean, they line up all over the place and drive you crazy. The Chiefs do with those two guys. And now Gruden wants a toy like that where he can play with that has the burning speed to get a mismatch and just zoom by you. I like this pick for the Raiders. I think it's a solid one. But then I got to criticize their later pick. To take Arnett as a corner, that's probably the most scrutinized pick on this whole board so far. But I do like the Ruggs pick.
Yeah, I'd be really surprised when all the draft grades come out that if Damon Arnett isn't one of the ones that's graded lower. And a lot of that is because people have to kind of stick to their boards and their opinions before the draft when a guy that they put a third-round grade on, which was the case for Damon Arnett. When you look at Pro Football Focus's grades, they had him as a third-round pick and the number 88 overall player on their board. And then Dane Brugler at The Athletic, another guy who puts together a draft guide that a lot of people in the league take a look at. He projected Arnett as a second or third-round pick, and Arnett's a 24-year-old cornerback. He's a lot older than a lot of these other guys coming out. But the one thing about him is he's used to, in that Ohio State cover one system, he played a lot of press coverage. He was on an island a lot with their defensive system. So this is a guy that is older at 24 years old, has had some history, some background stuff that they would have had to have looked into, but 3-year starter at right cornerback for Ohio State. He's playing in some big football games. So it's a move that's going to get criticized, something he's going to hear, and you see how he kind of responds to it. But let's move on to the number 15 pick. And to give an update, it looks like the Baltimore Ravens are taking LSU linebacker Patrick Queen. Thought they were going to take him at 23. They end up trading back, and they still get the guy that a lot of people had picked them to take. So LSU linebacker Patrick Queen off the board. But Mitch, let's move to the Broncos pick, number 15. You knew that there's a good chance they were going to take a receiver to give Drew Lock another weapon. It ends up being Alabama wide receiver Jerry Jeudy. Todd McShay, our friend from the Chiefs preseason, said that he's the best wide receiver as far as route running that he has ever evaluated.
Yeah, I think this is going to help Drew Lock in the fact that he's got a guy that can be this precise. If Ruggs is the McCole Hardman clone, to me this is a Keenan Allen clone, and I mean that as a compliment. I had predicted, in fact, on our shows, even I think on Watch Party maybe, we were talking about it, that our division was going to get 2 of these top 4 receivers, and that's the way it turned out. Judy's a good player, just not a burner, but solid move here for Denver. They had to be happy that the board just stuck right there for him and they could take him.
Yeah, Jeudy, the Biletnikoff Award winner, given to the nation's top wide receiver, led the SEC in touchdowns, which is obviously saying something. But Mitch, when you look at this AFC West as a whole and all of these picks that are made, do you see these decisions being made in a vacuum to where the Chargers are saying we need to get a quarterback and the Broncos and the Raiders saying we need talent? Or do you see this as, if we're going to have success and we're going to go up against a Chiefs team that has lost 3-4 division games in the last 3 or 4 years? I mean, the numbers are ridiculous as far as how good the Chiefs have been in the division. Do you see this as we're competing with the Chiefs, or do you think that they're just looking at their own roster and it happens to work out that way?
I think it's the most underrated stat in the league. Nobody talks about it nationally. Chiefs are 27-3 against the AFC West in 5 years and have not lost a Sunday division game since 2014. I think it is an interesting move by these teams, other than moving up to get Murray, which the Chargers did. We've already talked about that. They're saying we need to get more offense. If we're going to beat these guys, we're not going to beat the Chiefs 21-17. We're going to have to beat them 35-31. And that's what these moves seem like to me.
And as we get closer to the Chiefs pick, we're just a few away. It looks like the Titans are on the clock at number 29 now. A lot of good players still available. Mitch, what stands out to you about the players that are available so far on the board right now?
Honestly, this is just where I thought it would be. There's no real surprises here. I didn't think Murray would be available. I didn't think Queen would be available. Well, I'm still there from Wisconsin. On all the corners are still there. If you're looking at Gladney as a corner, yep. You've got Diggs is still there as a corner. I mean, there's still lots of choices. It's linear. It's like we said, this is linear. It's more horizontal than vertical. So lots of choices here and still a chance to trade down.
Yeah, and you look at some of the guys, and it's just the content for any Chiefs fans who are watching this that followed our pre-draft content. We made cases for a lot of these different positions, and you look at a guy like Xavier McKinney, the safety out of Alabama, who's versatile, can play a lot of different spots. He's still available. DeAndre Swift, the running back out of Georgia, still available. We just talked about Patrick Queen going. Ezra Cleveland, the versatile, like very athletic tackle out of Boise State's available. And then you've got guys like Ross Blacklock, who became the late popular mock draft pick as of this morning for the Chiefs, and that disruptive defensive tackle at TCU. You got A.J. Epinesa. You've got guys like Willie Gay Jr., the linebacker out of Mississippi State, Jonathan Taylor, the running back out of Wisconsin. There's a lot of really good players available. So if the Chiefs make a pick, they feel good about it. But if they trade back, they're going to be able to pick up more assets and still pick up a good player at some point. The Chiefs, it seems like they've got a lot of good options compared to what you thought when it started. This isn't the worst case scenario for the Chiefs at all.
No, and honestly, it's where we thought it would be. And I don't know if you mentioned Jalen Johnson of Utah is still there. I'm a little bit surprised about him because he's a guy that can play like safety or corner and be in that Kendall Fuller range to me and have an immediate impact in week one. The question is now, if Brett is thinking about trading down, now you're in that realm where you're taking those calls. Where do you go? I don't think he wants to trade down too far. But if he stays, to your point, if he stays even with Chicago, if he could get 43 and above in there, you're going to get these guys. I mean, they're still there. This is the way this draft is, and it's a great year to win a world title and be picking 32.
Yeah, the compensation on the trades that we've seen so far, moving about 6 to 8 spots, it's cost you about a mid fourth rounder is what it's looking like right now. So it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening. Obviously, still got a few picks left. Depending upon how quickly this happens, could be about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. We'll see how it all plays out. But yeah, should be a whole lot of fun. And right now, we're going to welcome on a guy that has had a whole lot of fun coming off his rookie year, one of the best young playmakers in the NFL, Mecole Hardman, coming to us. Are you in Bowman? Are you down in Georgia?
No. I'm in Texas right now.
Oh, you're in Texas. Okay. Mecole, how's the offseason been going? What have you been up to, man?
I've been going good. Really just trying to figure out how everything's going to happen and what we're going to be doing. But overall, just been training a little bit, sleeping, eating. Normal things.
Mecole the Jet, baby. The Jet. It is good to see you, my friend. I wish I could see you in person.
Mitch?
Yeah, what's up, the Jet?
Mitch, what's up, baby?
It's for real. I just don't, I don't have a cool workout like you got. But there's all these Georgia guys, already some guys off the board. Some of you, you were teammates with these guys. And a lot of talent from Georgia that's going to go in this draft already has.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I'm room my guys on, man. Good to see Andrew go at 4. I thought he was the best tackle in the draft anyway, and they was having him ranked like the 4th tackle. I'm like, man, y'all don't know what this man have done, So, but definitely good to see him go. Hopefully, we see Swift go in the 1st round as well. So just fingers crossed. Hopefully, we get a lot more, in the upcoming rounds.
Mecole, I know it's probably hard to put it in context, not being a Super Bowl champion and all, and everything that you've done over the last year, but how has the last year been for you? I mean, if you think back to where you were a year ago, kind of sitting nervously waiting for that call, just how exciting and just how much have you learned about yourself? How much have you grown over the past year as a person and as a player?
Man, it's been a long journey, from college and going to the league, but definitely coming to a team like the Chiefs, man, where, Coach Reed and Veach and Mr. Hunt, just the organization they got and the foundation they have built, and coming to their locker room with open arms, man, and it's been great. And just, being with that team, being with the organization, and just learning different things here and there. I couldn't ask to come to a better situation with a, not even a better group of guys that definitely, take me under their wing and teach me what I need to know. And so definitely, as a person, just finding myself as in, and, pushing myself to my limits, and knowing, just different things and being a better man, better man of character, especially with Coach Reed and the way he do things. And just as a player, just, getting better overall with Pat, getting the chemistry with Pat, learning, different things from Kelsey, Sammy or Tyree or even D-Rod, man, Pringle too, just learning from those guys, because those guys been there, longer than me. So just trying to improve every day on small things, route running, recognizing the coverages, catching the ball right in front of me, and just learning the playbook. So everything's coming together, man. And I love this team that I'm on, and especially winning the Super Bowl. So it really can't write it any better.
We didn't plan this, Mecole, but Joe, while we were speaking to you, Tennessee took Isaiah Wilson. Okay, so another one of those guys that blocked for you. So another between the hedges dog is in the NFL.
Oh, I just said it. Yeah.
Go.
Yeah.
Okay, got to ask you though, because one of the things I've talked about with all this going on and us all being virtual here and staying at home is continuity, the communication, and also the culture. You've had a year now to be in it. It's April 23rd. As a player, do you know what you're supposed to be doing, what Big Red wants from you, what with the strength and conditioning and training wants from you and your position coach, that and how much of a factor is it, hey, April 23rd, they want me doing this?
Yeah, we got a good idea, a good grasp of what's going on. They emailing or just talking to their coach. They got a pretty good grasp of what they want us to do or what they want us to key in on. As far as strength and conditioning, it's hard because it's not no virtual. What they showing us what to do, they just really send you a sheet and and the video direction of how to do certain workouts, and they ask you what you got access to and things like that. But as far as with the coaches, you doing the virtual meetings, with the coach watching some film, and with the group of guys. So we're just doing the best that we can, just to stay on top of things, just to the football aspect thing, get our head back in football, because it's hard to, really lock in when you're not there at the facility and, face to face with a lot of things. So they doing a great job of, communicating and showing us and, just showing us what we need to be doing and just directing us, putting us on the right path. So whenever we do the facility open back up, we can just pick right back up.
All right, we want to ask anybody who's in the comment section who's watching us on YouTube, if you've got any questions for McCole, let us know, and we'll fire those off. McCole, I just want to ask, if you've been watching the draft, it seems like you're into it right now. Just what have you thought about what's going on in the AFC West? You get a couple of Alabama receivers, guys that you competed against in the SEC, going to Denver and going to the Raiders. What are your thoughts on the Raiders trying to keep up with you guys and the Broncos?
Yeah, the Raiders, they're all right, I guess. I like to pick and hear Ruggs. I like hearing Ruggs anyway. I actually talked to him yesterday and wished him good luck and told him to enjoy the moment. So I actually talked to him and so it's good to see him go early, the first receiver taken. So I guess they trying to keep up with our offense. I guess with Denver drafting Judy. So I guess they're trying to put some weapons on offense, but who I'm rocking with anyway. So
yeah, that's what happens when you're a champ.
Yeah, a little bit. But I'm right. I like the picks though. I think this is a passing league now, and I think those two guys with those two receivers definitely can help you score points. So I don't think it's. I think it was great picks overall.
I see Ruggs as being a little bit of use. He copied your game a little bit.
I don't know. I kind of think he's more featured in his offense than I was in my offense. But I think we got similarities for sure. Over the run after the catch, making plays in open space, can stretch the field. So we definitely got those similarities. We speed guys, so it's all kind of like the same at the end of the day. But hopefully, he can, me too, grow into a better receiver, as in like just far like running better routes, possession receiver, and and also using that speed, kind of like how Tyreek has developed to a receiver now like that. So we all trying to follow that path like Tyreek has, showed us, so we're definitely trying to do that.
All right, McCole, we've got a few questions from the chat room here. The first one is from Brenda Magana asking, who's the best hype man on the team?
Best hype man?
Yeah.
Oh, man. We got so many. Oh, man. Shoot. See, DeMarcus Robinson, Travis. Oh, man. Dang. Yeah. Tyrann Mathieu is a hype man too, actually. All right. I like Tyrann. He definitely a hype man. Probably those somewhere that, because those guys, they can get you going, man, and get you ready. So.
All right. Carson wants to know: are you ready to run it back?
Back-to-back Super Bowls, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely try to get that done. That's exactly what we try to do anyway as a team. So hopefully we can do that, man.
And the last one that we got right here is from OTS Spears, trying to stir the pot right now. Yes. Ask McCole if he's faster than Henry Ruggs.
Yeah, I think I'm faster than Henry Ruggs, man. I think me personally, I think I am.
What do you expect him to say? Of course he's going to say yes.
As long as I put on Twitter that we're going to win the 4x1 at State. Are you running 1 and Tyreek running 4, or is it Cheetah running 1 and you're running anchor?
Oh, that's a good one. I'll probably run anchor. I definitely run anchor. I think Tyreek gonna have to, he gonna have to get us that lead, man. He gonna have to pop it off for sure. He might be a second leg. I can see him. He got a nice tech. I know we put him at first. Put Tyreek at first. They let him get that lead going, and I don't know who would put a second leg. We gonna have a nice football one team though. No doubt about that. Yeah, we definitely gonna fall one team. Somebody going straight away. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, McCole, before we let you go, I want to give you a chance to share what's your message to whatever player the Chiefs end up taking, whether it's at 32, whether it's after that if they trade back. Just what's your message to whoever the Chiefs are going to add to their roster here in the next 20 minutes or so?
Well, I think if we go offensive, or defense, however we go, just come in ready to work, man. You're going to come into an organization that's going to welcome you with open arms, and you're going to come to a team that's hungry still, and that's ready to go win another Super Bowl. And so definitely just come in with your head right, man, just come ready to work. I just feel like that's the biggest thing because we actually work. We work at at the Chiefs, and so don't come out there with no complacency or know wherever you came from. You're used to this, you're used to that. Just come in with a clear head, clear mind. Buy into what they're coaching, what the team is coaching, what they're trying to teach you. And when you buy in, man, and buy into what Coach Reed and and Veach and Clyde and the foundation that they built, when you buy into that, man, you'll be just right.
Awesome, McCole. We appreciate your time, man. Stay safe, stay healthy, and hopefully this will all get past us, and we'll see you soon, man.
Yes, sir.
Get that jet fuel, brother. Get that jet fuel.
Yes, sir. We already loaded, baby.
All right, good stuff from McCole there. We got our own playmakers. Everybody else trying to play catch up. It's nice to have our own guy who keeps making plays. Mitch, just curious your thoughts. We're getting pretty close here, just about 20 minutes away. Looks like the Dolphins are on the clock right now. Yeah, look, so we got an update. They're taking Wisconsin running back Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, that's okay. He's super productive. I mean, runs in a system where it'll be interesting because if Tua is a great RPO guy, right? That's probably the best thing he does. Honestly, he throws the deep pass, but Taylor's going to have to learn to run the RPO game. So if that's the pick that they're doing, is that their pick? Are they going the Igbenogany is what I'm saying. Maybe corner from Auburn. Noah Igbenogany, the punt returner, kick returner, cornerback. Anyway, that would be an interesting pick too because he's been sliding up the board. Sorry, moving up the board.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor would be an interesting one if it is him. There was buzz and rumors about the Dolphins loving Jonathan Taylor going all the way back when I was in Indy at the Combine, that was out there with the production that he had at Wisconsin. But we'll see when that comes through. Thought we saw a graphic that said that. But Miami Dolphins continue to try to rebuild their roster. And continuing our draft coverage now, we welcome on the co-host of Defending the Kingdom with you, Mitch Holthus. The one, the only, the shop, Sean Barber. Sean, what's going on, man?
Never can be more excited in what I'm hearing. I'm feeling the atmosphere. I'm feeling the energy all the way from Overland Park, Kansas, man. I just can't wait for us to make that pick.
And Nick Benoni did go. He's gone to Miami, and this is one that the Chiefs were looking at.
Really? The
corner out of Miami. I know, Shop, you and I both liked him. Kid out of Auburn, explosive.
I mean, I played wide receiver in high school, went to cornerback, went to safety before playing linebacker. The more you can do on the field, it gives you a better understanding about that passing tree, the passing philosophy when you've played wide receiver before moving to the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, a little surprised based on the mocks that we've seen that Igbenogany, and you didn't know when these run at corners are going to go, but guys like Jeff Gladney and Jalen Johnson are still on the board. So still some good corners available, some good linebackers available. Interesting to see how this plays out. But Sean, Mitch and I have kind of given our thoughts on the first round. What surprised you? At what point when you were watching were you kind of like, I didn't see that one coming?
Well, obviously Isaiah Simmons dropping a few picks to Arizona was a surprise. I thought he was going to either go to the Panthers or the New York Giants, but everybody was going tackle early, so it was a big run on offensive tackles. Him sliding to Arizona, I think, is going to be a great fit for him personally. And then I think the second pick for the Raiders, I thought they were prime position to pick a corner that we knew about, and they went and got the second best corner at Ohio State. So I thought that was kind of a reach for them at that point in the draft.
Yeah, I think Mitch and I agreed that was the first time where it was kind of a little bit surprising. And maybe this is one of those, it wouldn't have been surprising if there were pro days and there were all these other things going on and all the buzz and all the information starts to get leaked out. And then you start to hear that Damon Arnett's going to go higher than a lot of the other draft analysts had projected him down in the second, third round. So that was definitely interesting. What do you feel about Justin Herbert going to the Los Angeles Chargers?
I think Herbert going to the Chargers was something everybody expected. That the Chargers had their eye on either Herbert or Tua. Herbert is, he's going to be a big, tall target, strong kid. Is going to pretty much be kind of like a 2.0. And so hopefully he has the turnover bug like Phillip Rivers has, and we can benefit from that. But I think, they're going to play Tyrod Taylor early on. It's going to be his show for a year. while Herbert sits and learns. And so we probably won't have to face him until 2021.
Mitch, I want to get your thoughts as we are getting really close to the Chiefs pick here. According to ESPN's Mel Kiper, just some of the best players available still right now, guys that we've talked about: Xavier McKinney, DeAndre Swift, Ross Blacklock, Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, the running back out of LSU, Antoine Winfield, AJ Epinesa. There's some really good players still available on the board right now. This is a great situation to be in for the Chiefs.
And not saying this is going to happen, but I think there's some discussion here as this gets closer of still that possibility of trading down. I think that's still in play. But honestly, BJ, those names you all read, if you don't trade down too far, they're still going to be on the board. And those guys could potentially start week 1 for you. So this is right where the three of us all thought we would be. Nothing has changed to me as far as the scenario the Chiefs were faced with now.
Yeah, you've got Gladney, Jalen Johnson, Trevon Diggs, Willie Gay Jr., Zach Bond, Grant Delpit. All these guys at different points over the last month have been mocked to the Chiefs in the first round. Now, granted, you get to the draft, and there's about 97 guys that are projected first rounders based on all the draft content out there. But for fans that have been paying attention to draft content, at this point, there's 10 or 15 names that have been connected to the Chiefs that are still available, and we're, one pick away? So the Chiefs are in a great spot right now.
BJ, since I was working from my basement, I was going to ask you, did I miss any offensive linemen getting picked? I knew the Wilson kid just went. Is Ezra Cleveland from Boise State, is he still on the board?
Yeah, he's still on the board. Cesar Ruiz ran a little bit earlier. The center from Michigan is already off the board. Not terribly surprising, as he was widely considered the consensus top interior offensive lineman in this draft. But yeah, it looks like, according to Ian Rappaport, the Vikings slide back to 31 and take TCU cornerback Jeff Gladney, and the Chiefs are on the clock. Boys, it looks like the Chiefs are on the clock. And little read here on the KC Draftathon. We're on the clock. Join Coach Reed, Brett Veach, and the Hunt Family Foundation to see how much we can all donate together. A portion of what gets raised tonight will support our local United Way of Greater Kansas City. Text DRAFT to 2100, and you will receive a push notification to the donation page. A lot of good work being done for all the COVID relief funds, a lot of the first responders, all the different stuff that people are doing right now. Sean, Mitch, I know you guys have been doing stuff as well, as we all stick this together with the KC Hearts. A lot of cool things going on tonight.
Yeah, it's awesome. And some of those pictures we've seen of the tailgates are terrific. There was one on social earlier where they actually replicated what we did in the indoor facility. I looked like it was social distancing was okay, but it was pretty awesome.
Man, the way the Chiefs are bleeding red right now, the way the atmosphere, I think we're going to give ourselves like a 10-minute allowance to kind of relax on the social distancing. The Chiefs fans are going to go arm by arm and allow this pick to go so we can see who is going to be the newest addition to our Chiefs Kingdom family.
As we continue to show you guys and give you access that you can't find anywhere else, let's take a quick look right now at the home office of head coach Andy Reid, Super Bowl champion head coach Andy Reid, as he goes through his process with Brett Veach and everybody. They've got the communication process set up. They've got IT guys there making sure that everything goes off without a snap. But guys, it is right around the corner. This is exciting. They're in a good spot. Defending champs, 32nd pick. Chiefs fans, let us know in the comment section. What are you thinking right now? Trade back. If the Chiefs are going to make a pick, who do you like? Let us know in the comment section. Who are you thinking right now for the Chiefs if they're going to make a pick right here? Now let's take a look at Brett Veach in his home office. And then I will give Brett Veach some credit that he showed some restraint. I thought there was a really good chance, even without a lot of ammunition, that he wasn't going to be able to contain himself to trade up and make a pick. But unless we trade back, this will be the first time in 3 years that Brett Veach has made a selection in the first round.
And BJ, I think there might be reluctance of teams trying to trade out of those picks of 32 to 40 just because of the depth that you mentioned. Keep in mind, they're going, wait a minute, we'll stay right here and get another kind of first round grade. So that's okay for the Chiefs. because maybe you do it in the second round and try to get an extra pick somewhere, or the third. But the point is, you may stay put here. We know there's a whole bunch and don't rule out offense here. We always think this is a defensive player, but look at all the good offensive players that are sitting there right now that could help this team.
Yeah, again, there's 10 or 15 guys that have been linked from different outlets and different mock drafts and different rumor mills out there. So, yeah, Chiefs in a good spot. Interesting to see. And again, everybody, we're going to have Brett Veach on the show here in about 15 minutes. Kind of depends. He's got to figure out his stuff. But before he goes on the media conference call, he's going to join us. We're going to ask him about whether they trade back, whatever pick they make. We're going to get his explanation and how he feels like the Chiefs got better as soon as he gets an opportunity to join us. We'll be able to fire questions at him and continue shooting questions in the comment section. If you've got questions that you want us to ask Brett Veach, let us know those as well.
The one thing I'd like to say is that the way that our Chiefs defense has been using that triple safety, it would do my heart really good to see them do exactly what you said, BJ, and get that safety from Oklahoma, man. He's a top 20 pick. To get him at 32nd would be an absolute steal of the draft.
Yeah, Xavier McKinney out of Alabama, I think you're mentioning. We talked offline about him a little while ago, and you talked about just that versatile safety, a guy who can move around, do different things, as much as we're in those 3 safety sets with Daniel Sorensen, and then you've got Ben Neiman who plays that role, and all these sub-package situations that it's hard now when you look at traditional depth charts, guys, stuff you guys talk about in your podcast, stuff that Nick and I talk about on In the Trenches of, it's hard now looking at traditional depth chart. You look at snap counts, you look at personnel matchups and things like that. And when Henry Ruggs goes in the division and Jerry Jeudy goes in the division, that chess match, like how do the Chiefs, combat that? Who do they go with to try to get more athletic on one side of the ball or the other?
Yeah, and we talked about this too on Defending the Kingdom. So many hybrid roles. It's hard to sometimes just pin a guy or plug a guy as he's a safety. Look at Simmons. I mean, Simmons played all over the place. And you look at some of these other guys, it's like a Juan Thornhill. He's a corner, he's safety, can do a lot of different things, even the Honey Badger. And so even on offense, you're seeing, we just had McCole on. What's McCole? He's 1,000 things. And that's what Andy Reid likes. Yep. And they do that with this pick. We know the pick's in, but I mean, just versatility on either side of the ball is a premium right now.
In a quick side note, the fact that we're making a pick at 11 o'clock is really surprising. I thought it was going to be significantly later than this. This has actually gone off pretty smoothly from the NFL's perspective.
And I think, too, the fact that there weren't many trades early, it was flying, man. I thought there would be a trade at 3 and that would screw everything up. And just everybody, I don't know if they were scared or it's like everybody stuck to their board and didn't move.
Yeah, again, some of the best players available. Again, this is just according to ESPN and Mel Kiper's: Xavier McKinney, DeAndre Swift, Ross Blacklock, J.K. Dobbins, Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, A.J. Epinesa, Yetur Gross-Matos, a guy that we haven't spent a lot of time talking about on this, but a guy at Penn State that showed a little bit of everything at 6'6", 260 pounds, a guy that can get after the quarterback. Grant Delpit, somebody that Tyrann Mathieu obviously knows really well from their time together at LSU, and one of the better safeties. Probably was better in 2018 than he was last season, but still a guy that can move around, do different things, and a guy who can come up and make some plays, obviously playing in the SEC for one of the best college football teams that we've seen perhaps ever. You look back to LSU's season and what they were able to do. I mean, looking at Joe Burrow, that was arguably the greatest season we've ever seen from a quarterback in college football history.
Yeah, he had a great surrounding cast. And here we go. We got it. So, Clyde
all
Edwards.
Right. Looks.
Yep. And love this pick. Barbershop, you and I know you talked about him too, BJ. Shop and I talked about him on Defending the Kingdom. Here's what I love about him. 55 receptions. You watch the tape, but you watch a lot of tape. This is cool. This is really, really cool. And I'm going to tell you, think about Brian Westbrook here. Think Brian Westbrook, what Coach did with Brian Westbrook. But 55 catches, BJ and Shop, that gets your attention because even if he's a third down back, the other thing is he can return. So now you can pick and choose when to use McCole as a returner as well. Love this pick. This is a great example of this draft being very deep.
Yeah, you got to love what Andy Reid's going to be able to do with Clyde Edwards-Hilaire and everybody else. You're hiding behind those offensive linemen. They cannot see you. But last season, just over 1,400 yards, 16 touchdowns for LSU, and is really the spark plug for that offense. You know, Joe Burrow gets a lot of credit. He put up some big numbers. That offensive line deserves a lot of credit. They won the Joe Moore Award, which is given to the nation's top overall offensive line unit, which obviously helped Clyde Edwards-Hilaire. But the numbers that he put up, and he picked up some of the biggest games that he had were in some of the biggest moments. And Mitch, you talked about it. His ability to catch the ball out of the backfield really probably separated himself, particularly in Andy Reid's eyes, from some other guys who were available, guys like Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins, who are great players. But there's obviously something they saw in Clyde Edwards-Hilaire at being a workhorse type running back that they feel like can fit really well with the Chiefs.
Guys, he's a tackle breaker too. This guy breaks tackles. Shop and BJ, 36% of his carries, guys, were for first downs or touchdowns. I know he ran behind that mammoth offensive line, but look at the tape. Watch his one-cut ability. He can cut on a dime and hits that hole hard if you're playing zone with him. Pass pro will come, I know, but BJ, you said it, highly productive, but 36% of his plays are first downs or touchdowns. I'm in.
I know he's a childhood friend of Darius Juice. We read that. Remember, we talked about that during the podcast. Any running back who can be that patient throughout his career, always paired up beside somebody in the room. He's waiting his turn. And when he had a chance to explode, he exploded on the scene. He does great things with the ball. He has great ball security. And we said he has great hands. A patient runner with return ability, availability, and consistent play for a national championship team. I think we hit a home run right here with this running back.
Yeah, I think you would have told most Chiefs fans coming into this draft about the running back position. And there's probably a lot of Chiefs fans that are wondering why running back. And I think when you look at the Chiefs roster and the Damian Williams, the way that he played in the playoffs, the way that he's played in the playoffs his last 2 years with the Chiefs, that he's earned the right to be that guy going into next season. But we also have to be honest when we look at the numbers that didn't play more than 400 snaps last season, hasn't rushed for more than 500 yards in any given season. And there's been so many injuries that you have to rotate through so many different guys that it's not just one guy's your running back and he's going to be the guy moving forward. The Damian Williams is under contract. He will be the guy number one on that depth chart going into this offseason. And he's going to get that chance. But after that, he's a free agent. Darrell Williams is coming off an injury. Darwyn Thompson, last year's 6th-round pick, is in the mix. I know they picked up DeAndre Washington, which a lot of Chiefs fans will pick up. But when you can pick up a guy that's got the pedigree of Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, could do all the different things that he can do. We talked about the numbers in some of the draft content I did leading up to this, and that in Andy Reid's tenure in Kansas City, in his 7 years, only twice has he had running backs in any given season that have played more than 55% of the snaps in that season. And it was in Kareem Hunt when he was healthy, and it was Jamal Charles. So when he had those guys that could be a workhorse back, he didn't have to share the wealth. He wasn't always rotating different guys. When he had a guy who could do everything, he was using that guy to do everything. And now with Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, at least on paper, from what we've seen from him at LSU, he seems to be that guy.
Andy Reid loves options. He loves versatility. And we've mentioned that. We've seen that all over the field. But Edwards-Hilaire now gives him that. Look at his time with the Eagles. I know I bring up Westbrook again, but he had Shady and Westbrook. I mean, he was used different guys all the time. I know fans ask me all the time, who's the RB1 so I can take him in fantasy? Well, your Chiefs RB may not be your fantasy pick, but they're going to be your reality pick. Damian Williams ran to immortality because he had a chance not to be carrying the ball all the time. He was able to get fresh legs for the playoffs. And with Edwards-Hilaire, I mean, when you look at him, he had 4 games or more, or he had 7 games where he had 4 receptions or more. It's my attention. That and the fact that he can be a returner. He can be a special teams contributor right away too. So your essence, you're getting a quasi-starter for week 1.
Yeah.
And the other, and Sean, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, yeah, with Moss being on the field as a tight end, and then a second tight end at LSU, Jefferson as a wide receiver, there's not many balls to go around. And so, as a running back, when you come out of the backfield, if the ball gets thrown your way, you better catch it. And so I think he did a great job of making the most out of his opportunities. He always did a great job of finishing his runs with positive yardage. He was a downhill runner, ball carrier, and he also protected Yes, he protected Joe Burrow.
And he played in the biggest games. And we know, in Mitch and Sean, like, it matters to coach. It matters to Coach Reed that these guys played in big-time college football games and that nobody played in bigger games than what LSU was able to do over the last few years, that he's used to that hype. He's used to that pressure. And he's used to playing in Death Valley, where it's going to be very similar. And you ask Tyrann Mathieu. I'm really curious to know what Tyrann Mathieu's thinking right now to get another one of those LSU guys in there. But the one other interesting thing about Edwards-Hilaire coming out of the LSU program, when you compare him to a guy like Dobbins, or particularly a guy like Jonathan Taylor, who the Doak Walker Award winner the last 2 years, when you look at the numbers, that Jonathan Taylor carried the ball almost 1,000 times in his 3 years at Wisconsin, whereas, Clyde Edwards-Hilaire was the guy last year, but still only carried it 214 times last year. Doesn't have as much, tread on the tires as some of these other running backs. Carried it, I think, just 351 times in his career. Obviously had the big season last year with over 1,400 yards, averaging 6.6 yards per carry. But a lot to like about this pick.
Yeah, and these lots of yak yards here. Think about a swing pass or thinking about a bubble screen and him breaking those tackles. The other thing is ball security. This guy hangs on to the ball. He is not a fumbler. And that, of course, is going to be getting right to the heart of Andy Reid.
Yeah, and speaking of Coach Reid, let's take a look at Andy's reaction when the pick is made. Obviously, he's going to be excited. He gets another toy. He's just probably scribbling. He's probably already drawing up plays right now, Mitch, as he's just sitting there waiting as the draft comes through. But proud of Brett Veach for making a pick at 32. We'll talk with him here in just a few minutes to get his thoughts on this pick and just the whole process of scouting Clyde Edwards-Hilaire and what he thinks about that running back room that's got a lot of talent. There's going to be a lot of competition. That's going to be one of those fun ones to watch as we get closer to training camp.
Yeah, and he steps into a great culture with that running back room. Not only with D-Mac, but then, Eric Bieniemy still got that in his DNA. We talked about that too, Shop, on our Defending the Kingdom podcast. But BJ, that is one of the best cultures of any on the team, and it's been consistent for 7 years. And for Clyde Edwards-Hilaire to enter that group in that room, he'll fit right in, and I think he'll absorb and soak it in. This is a great pick. Fired up about this pick.
I know we talk about the running back room. The one thing you can't do is ever rest on your laurels. And that's one thing Coach Bieniemy and his staff will not let that running back room do. You can't allow good keep you from being great, and you can't let great keep you from being elite. And our running backs have been elite at certain times throughout the season, and they just have to consistently stay hungry, stay passionate, and stay aggressive. And that's what you can do when you're fresh. When you got fresh legs and you can rotate, our running backs have always cheered for each other. They've always been each other's biggest cheerleader. When Spencer Ware was here, when Wes was here, and when, like you said, Jamal, when all those guys were here, they were always rooting for each other to get in the end zone. It was never a complaint, never hanging your head down when you got pulled out the game. You just was hungry to take advantage of the time you had on the field and the carries you got.
Guys, I know we're waiting for Brett Veach right now. He's probably on the phone with Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, the newest chief. But let's take a quick minute to talk about some of the guys who are still available on this board and what tomorrow could end up looking like. Because there's still 10 or 15 guys right here that we thought could potentially go at some point in the first round, and those guys are still available.
Yeah, again, this is one of the deepest drafts. I think one GM called it the deepest draft in 10 years. And I mean, it's hard to argue against that. But people are saying, wow, they took an offensive guy. Well, what about corner? Hey, you can still get a corner in this draft. And keep in mind the Chiefs' success. When we look at what we've done in the second round last year with Thornhill and Hardman, the third round has been the golden round for the Chiefs throughout history. So there's a lot of dudes left.
I think it says something, too. There was a lot of information that was put out about the fact that Andy Reid hasn't, in his career, spent high picks on running backs, that was kind of what was seen to be a thing. And we all know that every situation is different, and then you have to treat every situation just as it is. And I'm interested to see where Coach Reid kind of fell on the Clyde Edwards-Hilaire. What did he like about him? When did he start to get in front of this process? At what point did Brett Veach start sending all the clips to him and letting him know how he felt about him as a player, and just kind of the backstory of all of this? Because the numbers can't be ignored. If that he hasn't throughout his career spent a lot. LaShawn McCoy was a second-round pick, a high second-round pick. But in general, hadn't spent a lot of high picks. So what was it about Clyde Edwards-Hilaire that made him so special that he wanted to bring him into this group?
A couple of things here, too. And again, this is Shop and I talked about this in Defending the Kingdom. To play running back for Andy Reid, you got to understand the RPO system. Now, Burrow didn't run a lot of RPOs, but this kid is made for an RPO. If you watch Edwards-Hilaire and his one-cut ability and to make a quick decision, that's good. The other one, guys, in Shop, he could be good in the red zone. Being a tackle breaker now, and BJ, we talked about this too, the pressure you put on a team in the red zone, vertical across the field, 53.5 yards. And if you got a tackle, think of Damian Williams in the Super Bowl. The play that gives the Chiefs, gets them within 4 points. That's where you stretch it and you attack it that way. This kid can do that.
All right, Sean, before we let you go, can you just give us a grade for this pick? What's the Shop? What does the Shop got for this one?
I'm gonna give it an A-. I'm super enthralled about it. I haven't gave an A+ since I came out of University of Richmond in the 4th round for the Redskins. So it's almost impossible to get an A+ from me. But an A- is good as gold, man. I think this pick is definitely gonna pay dividends, and it's gonna pay dividends immediately. This is not a pick like a backup offensive lineman, like a linebacker who may have to sit for a year and learn the system. I think this guy gets in day one and pays quick dividends in the red zone, and because he has a ability to protect, be another facet in the phase of protecting my quarterback Pat Mahomes. I'm all thumbs up, baby. All thumbs up.
All right, Shop. We'll catch up with you tomorrow. We appreciate it. Guy keeps bringing it all the time. Mitch, we're going to be joined by Brett Veach here in just a couple of minutes, but I'm really curious to know how many clips Brett was sending of Clyde Edwards-Hilaire to Coach Reid over the past few weeks.
Well, Coach says he wears him out. Like he gets a couple guys and he just wears Coach out with them. And I'm wondering how much he wore him out. Now, here's the question. The real controversy here is he wears 22. So Thornhill is sitting there watching this going, he ain't going to have no 22. So what's he going to get? But I'm, again, in the video we've watched of him, I'm all about it.
Yeah, there's a handful of guys and a few that are still available. We talked about Ross Blacklock earlier being one of the more, and he's available, one of the more fun guys to watch, is that his tape stood out just because of the shiftiness, the twitch ability. And for a guy who's as short and as stout as Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, his jump cut ability that I remember going through and some of the B-roll packages that we're running that I cut up. There's one play that he runs on the goal line where he just stops and just completely shifts to the left and just leaves a linebacker in his dust. And it's special. And it's one of those, you grade the flashes. You figure out what a player does well, put him in the best position to make plays. Andy Reid, there's nobody better in the league than Andy Reid. I mean, you thought the screen game was deadly before, and now you got a guy who can catch the ball out of the backfield, doesn't have a lot of tread on the tires, like we talked about. This is a home run pick for the Chiefs. I'm excited to see what tomorrow ends up bringing, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. But he was one of those guys that we had listed that internally we had all talked about, saying we're going to be really happy if this guy, wherever and however it ends up, if that guy's on our roster when they start playing games, we're going to be a better team because of it.
No question. And if people are saying, well, gosh, he didn't blaze the 40 time at the combine, I think he ran a 4.6. The other thing was maybe some pass protection, but every running back that comes to the NFL's got to work on pass protection. Every one of them. I've never seen a back that hasn't come into the league that goes, wow, I'm starting here with college algebra in this. And so, but it's not like he's terrible at it. The other thing I like about him, BJ, and I'm curious to get to know him better, we all are, but I think he's fearless. I think this is a fearless dude. So all of a sudden now you can use him. Tobe is going, not only returning with the ball in his hands, there might be other ways in special teams, even in coverage units, they could use him. So, he's coming out of a razor tough system with LSU, but there's again, versatility, multiplicity. Those are things he brings, and he fits right in with the rest of this team.
Yeah, and let's not ignore the Louisiana connection. Another quick thing, if you got a question for Brett Veach, who's going to be joining us in a couple of minutes, let us know in the comment section. We'll try to get to as many as we can. He's obviously really busy, but as soon as he hops on and he's done talking with the newest running back, we're going to have him on. But another thing, that Louisiana connection, Mitch, where you've got, if you're going to be a pass pro and you're going to play running back for the Chiefs, Eric Bieniemy, I know he's the offensive coordinator now, but he's never going to let go of that running back blood that he's got in him. He's from Louisiana. He was born in Louisiana. He's got family in Louisiana. Darrell Williams in that room played at LSU, and now he's got a guy that played in that same program with him to help him out. And we know Darrell, we know the guys in that room are all going to help one another. But you've got that Louisiana connection, and I'm excited to see Clyde Edward-Hilaire at camp or whenever the first time that we can watch these guys practice. I want to be there the first time he doesn't necessarily finish all the way through the line, and we get to hear Eric Bieniemy just be vintage Eric Bieniemy and just letting him know that that's not how things are done around here. In case he lets up a little bit.
Harry Potter in this either, right?
That's true. Very good point.
Jump in your stuff like real fast, and he's also a teacher. So these guys get like the double coverage. They get the double whammy from DMAC and EB. But they're honestly, BJ, you're onto something. There's a toughness about these Louisiana kids, and they're not afraid to work. And when they come to that LSU program, generally, they're more ready for the NFL from a physical and mental toughness standpoint than a lot of places. We can talk about leagues and argue about it, but that SEC West is the most NFL-looking college prototype. Yeah. Even that, LSU kids and the Louisiana kids, we could talk about ULL or Monroe or anybody else. They're generally tough kids. Think Sharkhandrick West, right? I mean, these guys come in with a mental strength.
And I want to give a quick shout out to Dane Brugler from The Athletic. He puts out this draft guide every year. It's full of all kinds of fantastic information, and just kind of glossing over the Clyde Edwards-Hilaire. He's got this nugget that deserves a mention right here. He said, of Clyde Edwards-Hilaire's 700-yard rushing games in 2019, 4 of them came against teams that were ranked in the top 10. That was Florida, Auburn, Alabama, and Clemson. This guy went for over 100 yards against Alabama, Clemson, Florida, and Auburn, all top 10 teams. That is big time. That is stepping up and playing your best football in the biggest of moments, which has got to be something that stood out to Coach Reed and obviously stuck out to Brett Veach.
Yeah, when I'm getting some reaction here too, somebody made the comparison to Sproles. It's not completely out of the realm. When you look at his compact body, I mean, he's power at 207 and at 5'7". Yeah. We've seen that before. When that frame is tougher to tackle, and that's why this guy's a tackle breaker, and you get that strong lower body power that he's got, you could see some Sproles in his game.
Yeah, it's like a Mark Ingram. Like we saw that guy, we saw Baltimore, what he was able to do. It's a similar body type, and we've seen guys in the past. Maurice Jones-Drew, a guy that Coach Bieniemy would know really well. It's kind of that shorter bowling ball kind of stature. But normally with those guys in that body type, you don't see the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. You don't see the hands. You don't see the impact in the passing game that we saw from Clyde Edwards-Hilaire. And the other thing, Mitch, that we shouldn't underscore here is the offense that LSU ran. This was a pro-style system. He's coming from a situation. He's not playing some crazy, spread offense that doesn't put a lot on those guys. He's coming from a system that's going to translate really well. That if you play in that system and you have success in that system, you obviously know the game and you have the mental acuity to play that position at a high level. And obviously picking a guy at 32 with Andy Reid and Brett Veach, they wouldn't have done that if they wouldn't feel comfortable with it. But it's just another one of those things to feel good about a guy that you don't know what kind of impact he's going to make right away, like Barbershop said, because you do have Damian Williams and you do have some other guys in this roster who have already proven to play at this level, but he's got talent that it's just going to take a little bit of time, and you've got great teachers around him. The sky's the limit for this kid, and 2-3 years from now, we're going to look back at this pick, I think, and be like, you know what? They solidified one of the most important positions as Patrick Mahomes gets set for his $800 billion deal or whatever he ends up getting. You get these playmakers around him on these rookie deals, particularly at running back. It's going to be a great situation.
Yeah, the Westbrook comparison keeps coming back to me too of what Coach can do with these guys. But here's the thing: Joe Burrow's a great quarterback. I think he's going to be at least a good quarterback. Could be great for Cincinnati. And he had a great surrounding cast, right? That offensive line, I tweeted about them, and you mentioned they were ruled the best offensive line in the league. However, once you watch the tape, the offensive line helped Edwards-Hilaire, but he also helped the offensive line. When you watch those one-cut runs, you don't have to hold your block very long and go. It's a good point that you were mentioning earlier against these big teams. Those are NFL games. When you're playing Alabama and Auburn and Florida, you only have this fraction of a second of a time to make the cut. And as a lineman, I don't have to hold that block because the next fraction of time is a holding penalty or could be a holding penalty. Edwards-Hilaire helped his offensive line to me as much as the offensive line helped him.
Yeah, and again, just played in big-time games. And I think that it's one thing to come from a small school, not that guys can't. We've seen it before. But for him to play at a place like LSU with Joe Burrow in the national title games, like we said, in the biggest games in the SEC, we have all the eyes on you. He stepped up and played his biggest football game. So we appreciate everybody who's sticking with us as we wait for Brett Veach. We got word that he was on the phone with Clyde Edwards-Hilaire and should be joining us hopefully very soon. It's got to be an exciting night for this whole staff. And it's another one of those things with the whole virtual environment that it's not like they're all in a room high-fiving each other and congratulating one another. They got to figure out how to reach and text and communicate with one another to let them know that they just got better on the offensive side of the football.
Well, it's interesting, too, as we kind of review who's left on the board. I mean, all of these safeties are there, every one of them.
Yeah.
Like Xavier McKinney, Antoine Winfield's a player, probably be a first-week starter. Ashton Davis, Terrell Burgess. I mean, all those guys are there.
Hey, Jeremy Chin. That was my guy. I loved watching Jeremy Chin at Southern Illinois play football. He is so much fun to watch.
And, we're right now, if things stay the same, we're at 63. And so 33 starts it, but you can get through 30 names and still get some really good names left, right? Even if you stay there. And I do think, we know that we can ask him. He likes to move, Brett does, but Gross-Matos is still there. Marlon Davidson of Auburn is still there.
Yep. Blacklock. Neville Gallimore from Oklahoma is still there. There's a lot of guys that a lot of people thought were going to go over early. Even some of those corners. Jalen Johnson, Jeff Gladney still available. Trevon Diggs from Alabama still available. A little surprised on some of these guys, but you look at the first round and there's only a few that kind of caught your attention saying, I didn't think that guy was going to go that high. So it's definitely set up to be a very exciting Friday. And we'll kick off the live stream again. Matt McMullen and I will be live at 5 o'clock tomorrow night. We'll be joined by the all-time leading tackler in Chiefs franchise history. Derek Johnson is going to join us, as is the Royals' Whit Merrifield. We're going to talk to him. We had talked to Alex Gordon earlier today. We're going to talk to Whit Merrifield tomorrow. And the Chiefs linebacker Anthony Hitchens is also going to join us tomorrow before we start the second round. Again, that show is starting at 5 o'clock. And right now we are going to, again, show you the best players available as we head into Friday. Again, a lot of good players. A lot of these guys at different points or another were projected as first-round picks. We don't know if it was medical. We don't know if it was just a situation where there's too many players. There's too many good players. It's a great situation to be in. At Mitch, with the number of players, it looks like the Chiefs could fall all the way to 63 and get a guy that others thought they were going to have to get at 32 if they wanted him. And that would just set up to be an even more exciting Friday than we've already had tonight, because tonight was pretty good.
BJ, I don't think I'm out over my skis on this. That list you just saw in many years would be picks 15 through 30. Yeah. I mean, we look at every draft like, oh, it's the same. No, they're not. I mean, some drafts are, that's why this draft is so rich. And that's just an impressive list of guys. And we tried to list them, and some of them we've had on that list, and others we've mentioned just verbally here. But there's a lot here, and on both sides of the ball, that the Chiefs are going to have an opportunity at, even in the third round, in the fourth round, if they stay there. So and we're going to, like you mentioned, and tomorrow night at this time, we're going to be cranking it out again, too, with 2 rounds to analyze.
All right, let's throw a question out to the chat room. Just anybody out there who's got any questions about what we've gotten. Actually, we're going to hold off on that. We'll accept questions here in a little bit. Seems like just in about a minute or so, we will have Chiefs General Manager Brett Veach on to discuss the selection at number 32 overall with LSU running back Clyde Edwards-Hilaire. Again, the 5'7", 202-pound running back last year, over 1,400 yards for the most explosive offense. It was a long night, a busy night for you. It finishes up at number 32 with Clyde Edwards-Hilaire. How excited are you, and what went into the decision to bring in the LSU running back to this Chiefs team?
Yeah, we were extremely excited. A few weeks ago when we were kind of putting the final touches on our board and looking at a group of players that we thought would be there. I remember talking to Coach and reminding him how much he reminded me of Brian Westbrook. And Coach called back, and after a few conversations, he had mentioned he thought he was better than Brian. So we knew we had a good one. You know, you felt like the running backs might slide a little because there were some quarterbacks, some tackles. I told you 4 quarterbacks, 4 tackles, BJ. So we were kind of we were playing the board right. There was a group of guys that we had really closely rated right there from 24 to 32, and they were all kind of going one after the other. And but we knew that if Clyde was still available at 32. What he can do in this offense would be special. Having him under contract out now for 5 years would be special. So, again, always looking how we can get better this year and into the future, and kind of stuck with that plan.
Brett, I've got Westbrook on the phone. He's going, what? He's at a Villanova virtual watch party. I want to ask you, the numbers that pop off the board to me, and I love this pick, the 55 receptions last year, his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, and that ability to be a factor in the red zone, and that 36% of his touches were either first downs or scores. What about his ability in that realm of our offense?
Yeah, I mean, he could really do it all. I mean, he's just, like you mentioned, we're certainly going to put a premium on guys that can catch the football. But, you know, when you're evaluating this running back class, I mean, his instincts, his vision, his lateral agility was just unique and special. Type of guy that can make something out of nothing. You saw it time and time again. Alabama game is a great example of that. But he has the ability to keep drives alive, to keep chains moving. And, you know, you look at all the receiving threats we have, and now, you know, to complement that with him and Damian Williams, I mean, it's going to be, we'd like to think it's going to be a potent attack for sure.
Brett, this question is from the chat room. It's Stephen Gutschall. Just says he just wants to know what stood out the most about Clyde. What was the one thing the characteristics that stood out to you when you first started watching him?
I mean, just the vision and lateral agility. It's stuff you can't coach. You know, it's not going to show up on a 40 time. It's not going to show up on the height weight. I mean, you just watch the tape, and you know, again, just it's a God-given ability, man. I mean, he can just see things before they develop the game. It's like he plays in slow motion, but he's a unique talent, and he certainly is tailor-made for this offense and you know what we're building here moving forward.
Brett, we talked about the culture of the running back room. It's been a consistent level for 7 years. How does Clyde Edwards-Hilaire fit the culture that we have in place in that running back room?
I mean, he fits right in. I mean, everybody you talk to at LSU, they rave about the kid's character, his work ethic. He's a all business type of guy. And even just talking to him recently before I got on with you guys, you can just tell, I mean, he's ready to come out here right away, go to work. He's just all about football, and you can't have enough of those guys. And you throw in the talent he has, again, with this offensive skill around him, I think it's going to be really special.
Have you had a chance to hear from any of the current guys? Have you talked to Patrick Mahomes or any of the guys about this pick? Have you got any text message? What's that communication been like?
Yeah, we threw some text messages back and forth, and really been trying to check in with all the guys during this process, see how they're doing, make sure their families are staying safe and staying healthy. But certainly heard from Patrick and texted him earlier today, and as you can guess, the Badger was one of the first guys once the pick was turned up, so he was certainly excited.
I want to ask you, too, were you surprised? This is a global question. There wasn't a lot of movement. I mean, there weren't the trades. Everybody thought it was going to be kind of crazy starting at pick 3. There wasn't a ton of movement. Did that surprise you, and how much did that help you at 32?
That's a great question. It actually didn't surprise us because, Mitch, all week we had been getting calls. Now, it could be because, they may not know that our staff is aggressive, but we had gotten calls all week about teams wanting to trade down. I think the last move was Green Bay moving up for the quarterback, which made sense for the fifth-year option. But, I mean, all week when you're taking calls about teams wanting to trade down, we figured once this thing turns the corner to the tail end of the first round, just the way the trades were shaping up, there was really no calls the last 4 or 5 picks, and our phones went silent. But again, we weren't certainly disappointed with that because we got to sit there and get a guy that we really liked.
We all know that Eric Bieniemy is not one to shy away from expressing his opinion. But throughout this process, as a former running back coach and a guy who's got ties with his family down in Louisiana, just what was Eric Bieniemy's kind of thoughts on Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, and how excited do you think he is and the rest of that coaching staff to get him into that room?
Yeah, I mean, certainly Eric was really excited, and I actually think we got about 6 picks away from our selection, and EB was text me, just go get him, bro, go get him. So it was fun, and Coach McCullough too. Coach Dylan McCullough was a huge fan of Clyde's, but the kid is certainly walking into a great situation, leaving national championship team at LSU and coming into Super Bowl champion, and going to be coached by not just Coach Reed, but as you mentioned, EB and Coach McCullough, 2 great coaches, and I know they're really excited to work with them.
I've had in my notes that this kid can be a returner. He has returned some, and not just as a returner. How quickly could he integrate into special teams?
One of the next texts I got was from Coach Tobe. So, Coach Tobe will try to use him. But, I mean, the kid's so versatile.
Take long.
Yeah, I would say there's a little Christian McCaffrey type, comparison. The Maurice Jones-Drew certainly is out there. The Brian Westbrooks. I mean, the kid can catch. He can run. He's got great vision, great contact balance. So, again, now to add him to the weapons we already have is just going to be really exciting.
And Brett, before we let you go, because we're going to have you on the show again tomorrow, we appreciate your time, and we know as busy as you must be. But just from a global perspective, looking at the entire draft, and particularly with the AFC West, did bringing Henry Ruggs to the division, Jerry Jeudy's in the division, the Chargers get a quarterback, they trade up for Kenneth Murray. Just in general, without going into necessarily every pick, just what did you think overall? And did you see it the same way that Mitch and I did, where it just seems like these teams are saying either we got to stop Patrick or we got to try and score with them? And with these picks early, it just seemed like, you know what, we're going to try and score with them.
I joked with Coach about that when we got to that 10 to 20, those selections from 10 to 20 about the offensive guys going to teams in our division. I think teams certainly know, even if you have a good defense, it's hard to stop us. So they got to figure out ways to score points. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. And we've got a great division to play in, and looking forward to these matchups.
What about tomorrow? What's the setup now for tomorrow? What's the strategy?
Yeah, I mean, tomorrow's going to be a big day for us with 2 more picks coming back in 2 and 3. I think the first thing that we'll do tomorrow is get together again, web chat with my scouts. We'll reset the board. We'll, just like we did for the last, it feels like forever, but really for the last 2 or 3 weeks, just kind of get a pool of players that we think, looking at the numbers and doing the calculations and how many guys we need on the board, still fielding calls and trying to be flexible to move up and down the board, but really just work tomorrow on a group of guys that we think will be likely to be there, just like we did tonight. And, I had a list of 5 players, with the exception of maybe 1 guy. I think the 4 players that we were working on, they went like 24 to 32. So we'll try to narrow that group again and make sure that we know that if we don't move up or move back, if we're at the pick 232, I guess, or 231, we'll know in what direction we want to go, much like we did tonight.
I know you're trying to build a roster to run it back, and it seems like picking up a running back that ran for 1,400 yards for the national championship LSU team is a good start. Brett, we appreciate your time. Hopefully you get some rest, continue to stay safe, and let's have a good Friday, huh?
Awesome. Sounds great. Thank you guys very much.
All right. Thanks, Brett.
Yep.
All right, Mitch, to put a bow on this show, obviously good stuff there, and it's interesting to see. He talked so much about pockets throughout the last week, and they were looking at those 4 guys, and I can't imagine what was going through their mind when you see all those guys start to fall. You've got 4 or 5 guys you like, and then there starts to be a run on those players, and then by the time you get to pick, there's still one of those guys available. It had to have been an exciting moment for all those guys. You could tell how excited the coaches were. It didn't take them all long before they started texting with all their ideas on how to use them already.
Yeah, I'm not surprised Tobe's right in there because he's always putting his hat in that ring. But there's 2 things that come across to me in analyzing this. One is, again, the depth of this draft and the fact that there were lots of choices, and they got a phenomenal choice here in Edwards-Hilaire. The other one was the phones went silent. There was just a lack of people wanting to move down. And because they know when this starts flying tomorrow in the second round, I think we agree. It's almost like a pseudo first round.
Yeah.
And that's the second least the first. I mean, that's what the second round tomorrow feels like.
Yeah, my low-key favorite thing that he said, and he said it in a very nonchalant way, was that like teams just know how aggressive he is, so they just call him. They don't wait till he calls them about trading up. He's like, yeah, they all call me about trading down because they're just like, you want to come up here? Do you want to come up here? Because they know. And he showed some restraint, and he stayed, and he got his guy. And so before we put a bow on the show, I just want to talk through this one more time, Mitch, just for about a minute here before we let everybody go, about the running back position, because it was one of the polarizing positions amongst fans. I know we talked about it on In the Trenches quite a bit. I was putting together the draft preview stuff. Whenever we talk about running backs, fans felt really passionately about Damian Williams, and that's their guy, and he should have been the Super Bowl MVP. And I think it's important that we know that Clyde Edwards-Helaire may have an immediate impact, but this is still that 2, 3, 4, 5 years, as Brett Veach said. They've got this guy under contract for the next 5 years. This is about solidifying a position that they've really had to patchwork because of injuries over the last few years. We made jokes about signing C.J. Spiller every other day a couple of years ago. It seemed like every week we were bringing him in. Then you bring in guys like Sharkhandrick West, and then you let him go. Then you have to bring him back. Spencer Ware, you have him, then you let him go, and you have to bring him back because of injuries. And then Damian Williams has also been banged up, and now you get a running back, some fresh legs in there. Guy doesn't have a lot of tread on the tires, like we said before. But I do think that when you start to look at it from that point of view, it starts to make sense, and it's really going to make sense when this guy steps on the field and you see the impact that he makes in the passing game and the running game. I think Chiefs fans, the equity built up from Coach Reed and Brett Veach in the drafts that they've had, for whoever didn't like the idea of a running back in the first round, I would just encourage you to wait until training camp and see this guy on the field.
This changes nothing about Damian Williams. Nothing.
Right.
If you look at the 7 years of Andy Reid and how he uses running backs, he has shown you the blueprint. And actually before that in Philly, this kid fits the blueprint as a great complement to Damian Williams and the other guys in that room. Yes, it's going to be competitive, but it was last year. And so, I mean, they traded a 1,000-yard rusher away in Carlos Hyde. I mean, but it wasn't like they were – I mean, so to me, this just fits right in with Andy Reid's system. The other thing, and Brett told me this privately, and I don't think this has been several days ago, but he goes, we're looking for the guy who's going to have the best career. And I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire, if he stays healthy, and he's proven to be healthy in the past, there's been one glitch. I think he had a hamstring injury at one point, or maybe early on in 19. But the point is here, this kid can have a great career as a Chief, and I think that was a big part of this decision.
It was a cap off to an exciting Thursday night, and the good news, Mitch, we get to do it all over again tomorrow, except the show is going to be an hour earlier. Again, live streaming again tomorrow at 5 o'clock. We will go live. Again, Derek Johnson is going to join us. Whit Merrifield is going to join us. Anthony Hitchens is going to join us. And again, after the third round, Brett Veach will join us again to explain whatever decisions they make, whether they make the 2 picks, whether they trade, whatever they end up doing. Brett Veach is going to break it all down for us again. We appreciate everybody in the comments section for following along and chipping in and being a part of this with us. Again, you can catch it tomorrow, ABC, ESPN, NFL Network. You can find it. We'll have more content over the next day or so as we talk to Clyde Edwards-Helaire and tell his story. But appreciate everybody for watching. Mitch, for Anna Topkin and Mitch Holthus, Glenn Connolly, Evan Miller, Jordan Giesler, and everybody behind the scenes that has made this possible. We appreciate you all for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.